Okay, morning folks, welcome back. Right, today's video is a quick guide. It's more of a beginner's introduction, if you like, or a refresher on how to play open chords. So, I don't mean bar chords. We've got another video on that, which I'll link to. We mean open chords. These are the chords you will start with, like your A minor, your E minor, your G, your C, your D. They're called open chords because some of the strings you won't be fretting. So they will have open strings ringing. Okay, now, first things first, let's just have a quick look at how these chords are written down. So, chord diagrams. So I'll put a picture in here and then we'll compare it with the guitar. So we've got 6 strings running this way, the frets running this way. This thick bit at the top here is called the nut, and that's represented by a thicker line on a chord diagram. And then running left to right, you've got the low E or 6th string, A or 5th, D or 4th, G 3rd, B 2nd, E 1st. So that picture here represents this at the top of the guitar. And the things you will see on this are noughts above the nut, which means open strings. X's sometimes, which means don't play that string, more of which later. And you'll see blobs or circles in positions here. So the blobs mean where do we put our fingers. Sometimes these blobs will have numbers on, which means what finger to use, although that doesn't matter, as we'll talk about shortly. The important thing is, where are these blobs? So I will put on a chord of E minor. And we can see from this chord diagram that it matches. So there's my E minor, reference it to the picture. Open string, finger, finger, open, open, open. Okay, so now we've talked about how chords are written down. Let's talk about the main things we have to think about. And it all stems from our fretting hand thumb. So I like to put the thumb, at least to start with as a beginner, behind the neck of the guitar, around about where the 2nd fret space will sit. And we have the thumb flat, so this soft pad is touching it, and we just place it here. Okay? So it supports the fingers, okay? Not over here, which people often do because it's not supporting the fingers. Not down here, not bent like this. Let's have it flat so it gives you a nice stable surface, and not up over the top. Although I will say that later in your guitaring life, and you will also see people doing this, you can put your thumb over the top here. There's another reason for that, to do with muting strings or even helping out with bar chords. But to start off with, get it behind the neck of the guitar. Now, in order to do that most comfortably and not strain your wrist, probably a good idea to raise the guitar up with maybe a footstool. Some people put it on this leg. I tend to cross my legs over like that, but a footstool will raise the neck of the guitar so it's not down here, it's up here and slightly more comfortable. And imagine there's a ball, a little squash ball or golf ball in the palm of your hand, because what that will do, that will create this nice sort of cup shape that you're able to put on the guitar like this. Another way to do it, hang your hand like this, relax it to the ground, turn that round, place it there. But your thumb is the key. Okay? So that's point 1, thumb. Point 2, where do we put our fingers? So I've got to put a finger down in the 2nd fret here. Do I put it back here? Do I put it on here? No. What you do, you put it as close to the metal of the fret that we can. You'll see the chord diagram will have it placed in the middle. We want it at the 2nd fret, so we get as close to the fret without being on it. If I put it on the fret, look, it sounds dead. If I put it too far back, it rattles unless you press really hard, because what you're doing is you're locking the string down against the metal of the fret. So you want to get as close to that as you can without being on it. Now we'll see with E minor, of course, they both won't go right close to the fret, doesn't fit. It doesn't matter, it's the best compromise. We get our 2nd finger as close as we can and our 1st finger tucks behind it. We're not touching the metal though, that's important. Okay, so thumb behind the neck, flat and stable. Fingers close to the frets as you can. And the other key point is use our fingertips, not flat like this. Fingertips. If you flatten them down, you're going to be muting these other strings. Okay? And you might even catch this E string with the back of this hand here. So fingertips. It all comes to thinking about this ball. It all comes to having the guitar in the right posture. It all comes about having our thumb in the right place. If your nails are too long, you will struggle to stand your fingers up like this. So if you can hold your plectrum and put it on top of your finger and it tilts over because the nail is pushing it, then I'm afraid they're too long, you'll have to file them down. Or you'll just know, because you won't be able to get your fingertips, the fingers will go like this as your nail pushes them. There. Okay, so far then. Thumb in the right place, behind the 2nd fret, and straight, or behind the 2nd fret space, should I say. Up to the frets as close as you can get. So if we want 2nd fret, you get as close to the 2nd fret as you can, not in the middle and not near the 1st fret, and use your fingertips while retaining this nice dropped palm position. Okay? So, the O's on the diagram mean no fingers, but open strings ringing. The other thing you might find sometimes is you'll find an X. And an X means do not play that string. Now why is that? Well, the root note or the bass note, the lowest note sounding note of the chord, wants to be the lowest one that the listener hears. Now, in the case of E minor, which is this, or E major, or G, for example, we want to play all 6 strings because our bass note is on that string. So E is the open string for E and E minor. So that's the lowest one we want sounding. G, well, 3rd fret E string, it actually is a note of G. So we start it there. But what if we had A minor? Okay, so here's our A minor, look. Let's compare that to the chord diagram. Notice something though, there's an X here. Well, that's because you don't want to start on that string. We only want to strum 5 strings. Listen to it if I do 6. Doesn't sound quite as good, sounds a bit muddy. That's because the bass note, the root note, the lowest sounding note in the chord, wants to be a note of A. And this string here, the 5th string, which is open, that is a note of A. What about D? Another example. Well, you notice D has 2 X's. Listen if I play all 6 strings. Sounds horrible. If I go from there, from the 4th string, which is where the O is, note the X is, where the O is, that 4th string is a note of D. So that's where I want to start my strumming from. Right, so, in summary then, we've talked about where our thumb goes, behind the 2nd fret space, on the soft pad, touching the back of the neck, and it's straight. And I tend to have it just above the middle there, like that, if you can see. We place our fingers as close to the fret that we need as possible, so it doesn't buzz. We use our fingertips, and then equally importantly, once we've got all that right, we have to respect what string we start strumming from. Okay? So, you'll find sometimes your thumb will go in a slightly different place, like with a C, which is quite a difficult one. Sometimes you have to turn it slightly, but ultimately it stays there. So that's what I want you to practice, okay? Choose any chord from any chord book, any open chords. E minor is a good one to start with. A minor, G, C, D, etc. Put them on, strum them, follow those rules, mess around till they sound clear. Okay, so you will also see some books put finger numbers on the chords. Like with E minor, it might say 1 or 2. 1 is index, 2 is middle, 3 is ring finger, 4 is pinky. It doesn't really matter when you're just playing a chord on its own which fingers you use. I can do it with 1 and 2. 2 and 3, or 3 and 4. When it matters is when you're changing to other chords. Okay, but that's the next video, how to string chords together. So for the moment, just practice using whatever feels most comfortable to you. Like A minor, I could do that, or I could do that. G, we could do that with 2, 1 and 3, or we could do that with 3, 2 and 4. Doesn't matter, not at this stage. Where it matters is to make changing from one chord to the next smooth. But as I say, that's for the next video. Okay, now what you will think is, well, I haven't put diagrams of all the chords in this video. Well, no, because you've probably already got a book that came with your guitar, or a sheet which came with your guitar, or beginner's guide that you've got, which will have these chord diagrams in, and they're all the same. Okay, so essentially use what you've got, but bear in mind that we're looking at the X's for what not to play, the O's for the open, and the circles where the fingers go. The most important part of this lesson is not what the chords actually are, but it's getting our thumb in the right place, getting our fingers up to the frets and not on them, using our fingertips, and starting the strum in the right place, so strumming the right number of strings. Okay, brilliant guys. So that's your basic guide to open chords. To follow in the next few days, we'll have a very important clip video on how to actually change chords smoothly, because that's obviously important. But first of all, let's get them sounding good on their own. Thanks ever so much for watching. Really appreciate the support. Like and subscribe, etc. And I'll see you guys all soon. Thanks very much for watching. Cheers. Bye.